Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, once again to Friday night. Why does On the Slab do a horror night on Friday night? Why? Because I've answered the question already in my intro. It is horror night, and I don't trust my two colleagues to get it right after the last debacle.
That's what we did. We brought the other one in.
So we brought the other one in. Now, if I'd have asked Ted, he would have told you exactly what it was. Ted, why do we do horror shows on Friday night?
Because Friday night is comedy night. He teed me up, and it's horror night, lads. Sorry,
it's going to be an ongoing thing. It's going to be an ongoing thing.
Can we recut this, lads?
No.
You know what? Let's do it live in person. Welcome to
live
the On the Slab horror show, the only horror show that you need to be listening to on a Friday night. And the reason we do it on a Friday night is because yours truly, me, Ian the Dynamo Kelly, the host of this show, says Friday night is horror night.
There you go.
Welcome once again to the show. Of course, I'm joined by the G-Man, Greg Flanagan, Carl King Woe, and today we have a returning guest, of course, the host of the fantastic podcast Retrotainment, Mr. Ted Irving. Ted, welcome to the show.
Tombstone Ted. Yeah.
Tombstone Ted. Tombstone.
Everyone has a nickname on here now.
Well, that's okay. Well, at least you got that right.
Thanks.
As you can see, we're all in a bit better mood than we were last Friday.
We're in a far better mood this Friday. Once again, obviously, take care of a little bit of business. Thank you once again for the ongoing support. The channel is growing, and that is thanks to each and every one of you that subscribed to the show, and of course, out of all you 300 some bitches that like our Facebook page as well and have commented on our recent episodes. We really do appreciate that, and anyone that comments on the shows, we appreciate that too. So all of the support so far, we're getting there. It's a slow build, but it's taken an upturn recently, and it's nice to see. But today you'll probably notice by our special guest, Tombstone Ted, that he has a particular set of skills, but never mind the skills for the moment. Look at his background page. We did mention last week that we'll be talking about Scream, but we're not talking about the original Scream today. We're talking about the follow-on, the 2022 version of Scream. And Ted, you really wanted to be a part of this show because you and Greg obviously went to see it when it first came out, probably on the first day, I'd imagine, with you two boys.
Saturday,
closest to first day as it could, yeah.
Yeah, and
100% wasn't getting ruined for me.
Of course, we can see that beautiful man there, Skeet Ulrich, in the background, looking sexy in blood. for all the female fans out there, going, yeah, okay, I'll take it. But yeah, we're gonna do a bit of a rundown on the latest Scream, which I think generally, Greg, Ted, you guys are the review guys, so you would keep a bit of an eye on reviews. How are they looking so far? I'd imagine far better than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre anyway.
I'll tell you what, anything will be better than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
So that's an unfair comparison. Fair enough.
Yeah,
okay.
Significantly better than that, yeah.
But if we were looking at reviews, say, comparing the follow-on of Scream to, say, something like Halloween, both have generally received great reviews. To be fair,
it's running higher than Halloween is at the minute.
Okay.
Halloween kind of got a bit of a bad rap off certain groups of people for things. Obviously, we went through that with whatever
millennials.
So Rotten Tomatoes have this at 77%,
which is very, very
good for a new horror film.
Yes,
it is. It's good for a horror film, and I hate saying that that does you know, that's how they do it, but it is true that like
now some of us are
horror
going to
films
disagree
tend
with
not
Rotten
well.
Tomatoes on this show, so this is why I'm looking forward to it.
I do as well. I generally disagree with Rotten Tomatoes for a lot of things. There's a few that I think they do get right, but the audience scores a little higher on Rotten Tomatoes. It's 81 for audience.
81, is it?
I think that's probably about fair. Yeah, I like it's not a 10 out of 10. You know, it's not 100%.
I would always go by the audience scores on that rather than the
Me too.
critics ones.
Yeah,
Me too.
Know?
Critics on Rotten Tomatoes kind of like those
Critics are arseholes on
period
Rotten Tomatoes.
dramas because they're generally in their period. And on our show we like blood, so we're not judging. Let's get into it, guys and gals that are listening.
No.
So Ted, you are the guest of honor. So how did you? I know you're a big fan of the Scream franchise. It's obviously something that your age group has grown up with as well. So you're lucky enough to have kind of been grown up with this movie, been able to get it on DVD or VHS, whatever it may have been back in the day. So you would have watched it, in and around the time that it came out. Talk to me.
So like for me, this is what probably, and a lot of people won't agree with this. This is probably one of my top slasher films. Like not just this film, but the franchise is one of the top slasher franchises because it went away from a lot of the other slasher franchises. You know, you've got your Freddy's, your Jason's, like all of this stuff, right? But they're singular, one person, whereas this is a bit more of a kind of mystery one. Yeah, like it's more of a who did it, but obviously the reveal is that there's two killers each time. So you've always got like, okay, well I know who one is, and then you get tricked because you're like, oh, hang on, it can't be him because now he's with them and they're still getting attacked, so it can't be that. So it kind of played with your mind a little bit. They've stuck with that throughout all of the films, so that's like.
And of course, we remiss to say the great Wes Craven, of course, the late great Wes Craven,
He he decided he wanted to stick with that idea of two killers the whole time. I think that I think this film they made a slight mistake. I think that maybe they should go with I thought they should maybe either go with 1 or 3 just to throw the audience off a little bit from the standard 2, but that's it doesn't take away from the film either. But yeah, like the whole concept of you've got two killers, and specifically the first one obviously got Skeet Ulrich here, and then you had Matthew Lillard as the other one.
They're the two best that
the ghosts. The
first one is far and away the best, right? There's no denying that. But when I went to see this with Greg, I was like, is it 2 or this that's second? And this is pipped 2 for me. I think this is better than 2.
Same for me.
And then 2, 4, and then 3 is bottom of the barrel. Where
and 3 isn't even that bad though. To be fair,
it's not
3
awful.
3 is okay. 3 is
it's
okay.
not awful. It's the worst of these. Like
which one was Pamela Anderson at the start? Was that 3 or 2?
No, Pamela Anderson wasn't in these. Pamela Anderson was in Scary Movie.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
That's
Carmen Electra.
Carmen
Electra was in Scary Movie 1. Drew Barrymore was Scream 1.
Yeah.
And then
that's my bad.
Scary Movie 3.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, Scream 3 is the one where they're on the set of the movie.
Stab.
Ian doesn't remember anything past the fucking 90s.
Yeah.
This is your brain on drugs.
Thanks for coming on, Ted.
No, this film was it was solid. Like they did the right thing here. They didn't try and like certain films try and rewrite the history of the film. They didn't try and do that. They were like, listen, everything that happened, and we're just going to move on from that, and we're going to get a slightly new cast in, but you'll still get your big hitters in here, and we won't go into who did show up and who didn't show up, but I think they did that well overall, to be honest.
There was some really nice touches in this. The one thing I would say I really like, as vicious as Ghostface was, in the first three, with the like obviously stabbing people is probably one of the more violent ways of doing it. He's a lot more vicious in this.
Oh yeah.
But can I say one thing though? The level of jabroniism from him is always the same though. Like in terms of how just clumsy he is. Like it's like as soon as you put that on, you just become a clumsy fucker. And it's only a sheet.
It does go down
mask as well.
Scooby-Doo villain.
You got to look through that mask. You know, probably impairs your vision a little bit. You got to, you know.
Yeah,
give him some, some weaknesses, because otherwise he's just some lad with a knife killing everyone, and who's going to stop him then?
I mean, I will say, in the build-up to the ads on this, where they were showing, obviously, parts of the movie like they do, and they showed the Ghostface with the new steel mask, and everyone lost their shit about it. And it just turned out to be nothing, really, because it appears just in the Stab movie, and you're like, okay.
It was just a troll. They just trolled everyone.
It was actually well played,
Yeah.
This was made as close to Wes Craven could have made it himself.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he had family in on it or he had people that knew him, obviously that were involved in the original ones with him. But
his DNA was all over it, absolutely.
This was him just going, that's it. It's staying inside this ball, and all the ideas come from there.
And like there's some little tidbits in it as well that yourself and myself, Carl, were talking about it, because we wouldn't be the Scream fans, say, that Greg and Ted are.
But bear in mind, I hadn't up until a couple of years ago when I done Dynamo's Dozen with yourself, when we done one of the lists, I hadn't seen Scream. I had always thought I'd seen it, and I hadn't seen it up until about 4 years ago.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, you're welcome.
And I watched it. I was like, I have no idea what's going on in this movie.
Well, that's okay. Well, look, I mean, I personally, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, I liked it. I didn't love it, purely because I thought it was a little bit too similar to the first one, but without the same kind of vibe for me, because I'm all about kind of atmosphere and vibe and stuff like that. And I just thought there was some little holes in it. Now, not the way that I would have described last week's episode. You know what I mean? Certainly not. Just little things, like I'm all about those little things, like it's broad daylight and it takes like 4 hours, for the ma to come back. Just little things that didn't make sense to me. It was a little bit, but I mean, I'm nitpicking here. You know what I mean? I'm nitpicking as much as you would be with a granddad at a dinner table, Greg.
I mean, at least this makes sense. She
well, not really, because you're living in basically the Hollywood Hills here, and the houses that during the day in this particular scene that I'm talking about, as not one person is out on the street possibly looking at someone getting stabbed to death out on the fucking lawn. This is Desperate Housewives. The cops would have been there 5 minutes before it happened. So that's a little. No, but you understand what I mean, like that kind of thing. Just little things like that bother me.
I mean, they're kind of things.
I found some of the actors in it to not be great. I'll be honest with you. Some of the kid actors in it.
Oh, really? I would have said the exact opposite. I would have said the acting in this one is better than the acting in one. Because
but one wasn't about the acting. It was about the narrative, and I thought the acting in this one was okay. Do you know what I mean? From some of the, I mean, I don't know the actors by name, but like I thought the little kid was a great actor. I thought the big sister was fucking shit.
The older sister, Jenna Ortega was very good.
The younger sister, she was fantastic. I thought the older sister was shocking. I thought if you reverse those two roles there, you'd probably be onto something. I just, but that would be it. I mean, I can't, I'm not going to say it was a shit movie, because I don't think it was. I greatly enjoyed my time in the cinema watching it, actually.
Your one, Jenna Ortega, she's the new kind of horror girl on the scene at the moment. She has quite a few.
That's the younger. That's the younger.
The sister. Yeah, it's the sister that kind of gets stabbed at the start. Yeah, and
she's very good. I thought
she has a few horror films under her belt and a few ones upcoming as well. So she.
Can you name any of her horrors, or do you know anyone that people should check out, or?
She's minor roles in them,
including myself as well, obviously.
Yeah, no, she's minor roles in them. She's not like major roles in any of them.
Well, we're fine.
So what's her?
I'm gonna check it out because I have Wikipedia open here.
Our new couple of big ones is X, which is pretty much a Texas Chainsaw ripoff, where they go to they're basically 4 porn stars and a director going out to make a movie in Texas or somewhere, and they get butchered by some fella on a farm.
She was in Insidious Chapter 2 as well. She was in The Little Rascals.
I think she was the little kid. She was the girl.
She's going to be Wednesday in the new Addams Family, which is being called Wednesday. So
Studio 66, yeah, and then X. So she's but it wouldn't be.
Studio 66 is upcoming. That's the Foo Fighters horror, which I don't think it's going to. Yeah, it's not going to be amazing, but I think I'm going to really enjoy that.
We will review.
Kerry King is in it though.
Yeah.
And listen, Dave Grohl is better and has achieved more than Kurt Cobain ever did. So just saying.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah. But I think for this film, I think I do get where you're coming from, that there is certain inconsistencies of people getting killed in broad daylight and stuff.
I like that though. It was different.
Yeah, even in the original, that was still sort of a thing. Like the principal gets killed in the school and everything in broad daylight. So there's a few kind of inconsistencies.
Fred the janitor.
What about let's bring Carl in on this one though, because I do think when I made those points, in fairness, I was kind of forgetting to allude to the fact that Scream is meant to kind of have little comedic elements of it because of the I think we'd all agree with that, you know what I mean?
It's taking the mick out of the rules.
It's not meant to be as solely intense as say Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1984 or Halloween 78, where it's just you don't get a respite here. So Carol,
it's not as full on as all those other franchises we were talking about, but the gore can be, which is fantastic, I haven't said anything about it yet because I was letting you all do your thing. I actually really enjoyed it, and I was pleasantly surprised because I'm so used to disappointment now with horror films. I loved the movement of Ghostface. I just thought, like you said, he was a lot more vicious, and it worked for him perfectly. And I think I'd agree with the boys that it'd be my second favorite Scream film now. The acting by the young kids was okay. It was fine. Didn't see any problems with it or anything. But I liked the fact that Courtney Cox, Neve Campbell, and David Arquette were in it, but not in a huge part.
They didn't saturate it with them.
No. They went the Ghostbusters role on this one, didn't they?
Yeah, but it was perfect for what it did, and I really enjoyed it.
David Arquette, by the way, like that was a sad scene, wasn't it?
The one thing I would say,
so angry when that happened.
Me too.
Former WCW champion. They can never take that away from him.
I had actually called him as one of the killers potentially. I thought he was.
I didn't have him.
I didn't think that either, and I'd given Greg before we went. I'd given him my predictions. What I thought was actually going to happen was the
boyfriend. By the way, I knew straight away. It was as blatant as they. They
called it straight away. That was the funny thing. They absolutely called it straight away.
Yeah, but what I thought was going to happen in this one is, as I said, there's always, and this is obviously fantasy booking, which all wrestling fans are fucking guilty of. But as I said to you, I thought that they've had 2 killers in every film so far. So I thought what they should do here is they should have 2 killers as usual. But why did Scream come back? And I thought to myself, the first film, Skeet Ulrich's character is definitely dead. Like, there's no denying that man's dead, right?
Yeah,
but
he is brown bread.
Matthew Lillard's character is presumed dead because the television falls on him and he's meant to get electrocuted, right? You could always have just had him be alive, and I thought for this film what they should have gone with was that he is alive and has manipulated 2 children to bring this back. So like, there's still only 2 killers and he's not actually killing anyone, but he's the manipulator.
That would have been a brilliant.
And that's where I thought they were going to with it.
Great idea.
Yeah, and that's where I thought they were going to go to with it. Unfortunately, they didn't even bring his character back, and I would have liked to see Matthew Lillard make the return because everyone else got a return, bar him really.
I don't think he wanted to come back though.
He probably didn't. He probably didn't. But
I'd read reports about his character. He obviously got into a mindset when he was doing it.
Yeah, and it was a fucked up mindset.
He got beyond his own abilities to come back.
Yeah,
and like he fucked himself up for ages with it.
Yeah,
and he played that part so well in the first one.
He did. Yeah, he was.
But I thought both of those, the dynamic between, like, because I don't know when we're gonna talk about Scream 1. I'm sure we will at some point.
We will.
But I thought the dynamic between the two of them, because obviously Skeet has that kind of, you know, he's the good-looking guy.
He's the pretty boy. He's the pretty boy.
Yeah, he's the pretty boy, but he's also a really good actor too. Like, and you know, he plays the kind of cool persona a little bit, and obviously the other guy plays that fucking lunatic, which Greg obviously alluded to. That obviously got too much for him because, you know, Wes Craven and those old school directors have their ways of, you know, making you really get into character and kind of fucking up. Whereas I think Skeet just looks like a kind of cool, calm, collected kind of kid, didn't he? And you know, was able to kind of do that character, and you know, obviously the other fellow wasn't blessed with the looks that he had, so he had to play that kind of goofy.
Matthew Lillard done quite a good few horror films as well in his time as well. He obviously done the likes of 13 Ghosts.
He did,
he plays them all very, very well.
Scariest one he did was Scooby Doo though.
Oh, that was terrifying. Jesus, that was terrifying.
Jeez,
having that Isla Fisher one chase you around, Jesus, I feel sorry for him.
And the dog that's talking to you as well, like, I mean, that's
how high must he have been?
First sign of madness, you know.
It's mad to think that, you know, you've got this guy who was, you know, one of the original killers in a Scream, like this big, like I know it's not as big as some of the other franchises, but like when Scream hit, because it was so vastly different in the sense that there were 2 killers, it was such a big hit, and you're looking at one of the main guys in it, and then he's Shaggy and Scooby Doo. But he plays the 2 roles so well. Like you buy into the fact that he is Shaggy.
Well, I remember Ted, for example, like just to give you like a context on that. I remember in 2 spaces, and this all happened in one day. Just now that you're at the touching on something that I remember. I remember like when I used to go from, say, Bray out to my mother's house, you know, on the weekends. I'd go on a Friday, say after school or whatever, walk down from where we lived down to the Dart station. And as you know, we used to have the cinema in Bray.
Yeah.
This is like 97, right?
Yeah, it was
top class cinema that was. You lost many a pair of shoes.
And they had a small version of, like, you know, that rug, you know, that like sheet that they would throw over the cinema, and it was Scream. It was fucking everywhere. And across the road in the likes of In the Groove, which was a little shop in Bray, and it's still there, where like they would have
in the old cinema building.
Yeah, they would have old school kind of, you know, old school kind of, you know, real hippie raver type of.
It was your hippie shop,
hippie kind of shop. But they would have like the Scream masks and stuff, like, you know, across the way. Like,
smart man,
very smart man, really good marketing. And I remember obviously going into the city centre in Dublin city centre, and going by the Savoy Cinema, and then they had the big, you know, the huge sheet that was over, like literally taking over all of the top part of the cinema. You probably remember that, Carl.
I do, absolutely.
And they had Scream on that, so like it was a hugely like marketed film, movie.
And that's easily the most used mask ever.
I would say so, yeah.
Because it's so simple, right? You know what I mean?
They bought that, didn't they? They went in and bought that in the likes of a pound shop or something when they were making the movie.
Yeah, he drove by and he stopped into somewhere to get like something to eat or something, and saw that and was like, because they were debating. It's
the same thing as like
is the mask. That's the one I want, and just bought it.
It's like the same thing as you know,
Halloween.
as Halloween, obviously with the William Shatner turning the inside.
Yeah,
out.
how do you even come up with that? Like, how do you go and buy a William Shatner face mask and decide I'm going to turn that inside out?
I know, yeah.
And that's going to be
brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or madness.
Like, I know it took longer for Wes Craven to get the rights to use that mask because obviously they were so widely produced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was ringing people down. He was like, "This is what I want." Like, you can't obviously just go in and use it in
But that's the genius of Wes Craven, though, because obviously he had created such great horror beforehand anyway, so he knew what he wanted. He knew what people would obviously see. So not only was he, well, I mean, to be a good director, you have to be a good marketer because you've got to know your market audience, right? And I think that's as good a story, I suppose, as going in and buying a William Shatner mask. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just in a different kind of context. You know?
Yeah, like they're just, you know, they're creative minds. So when they walk into a shop, they're looking at stuff.
They're always looking.
Like, you know, you'd just walk by it because you'd be like, that's just some fucking mask. You'd never think of it.
Yeah.
But he walks by it and double takes, and he goes, hang on now, I can do something with that. I can do something with that. Something that simple. And the rest of us are all just the idiots walking by it.
Or as you say, Ted, he could have easily had, like, say, a narrative in mind or like a little bit of an inkling of a story, and went, that's my character.
Scream had already gone into production when he found the mask.
Yeah, like he had everything was done, and the only thing he wasn't happy with was his mask, and he was just driving down somewhere one day. He stopped into some shop, and it was around Halloween, and he walked in, and this was there, and he went, "That is the mask," because it's something simple, you know. Because you have to remember that these are two teenage kids. They're not going to have an elaborate amount of money. Like, just something simple is all they needed. Just throw a mask and a fucking black cape over them and let them go.
And that's what I was going to say. I mean, it's very smart when you think about it. It's an easily accessible outfit for the people that are wearing it, and like they all wore a Ghostface outfit, so it was easily accessible. All they had to do was they probably came with a plastic knife, throw that out, get a proper knife, and away you go.
And once they bought the rights to that, like every single Halloween costume that was bought, you know. I mean, those poor unfortunate souls that sold the rights to it, I hope they got paid well.
I'd say they got paid big time.
Yeah, they would have had to, man.
But when you think about it, he actually says it in the movie that these are easily accessible to get.
Yeah.
I mean, every store has them a dime a dozen. I think he says in the first one.
Yeah, he does.
And he's like, he says you can't prosecute someone for having.
Yeah, for having a mask. Yeah, it's a Halloween costume. You can't give out to someone for buying a Halloween costume.
And I mean, it's very smart because now all of a sudden you have that in your mind going, well, how many people have bought this and how many people could it be?
Yeah.
Lads, what do you think about the dynamic? This is something I've always thought about, and I thought it was really, really cool, and something that I love about all the Scream movies, actually, and the whole franchise. The whole idea of people in the theater watching the movie, and they're all wearing that, and it could be that one motherfucker. You know what I mean? It could be you could be going out on your first date.
Yeah.
And this could be the
which
one
we see
guy.
in Scream. We see in Scream too. It's not their first date, but they're out on a date. Yeah.
And the reason I brought that up, Ted, was because I still, you know, because I heard it, y'all said like that this is your second favorite one. I still hold this third compared to number two, and I actually went and proved this to myself because I went and watched Scream 2 again just to see if that was still how I felt, and then I watched like a stream version, not illegally, of the latest one, you know, just to watch it. But I mean, and it wouldn't be like, I don't think this one's a million miles away from it. You know what I mean?
No, well, that's the thing. They're close. Like it depends on what you like. So I'll tell you, like, I do agree with you that there's going to be a debate there for a lot of people of 2 or 5 being the second best one, but I think it's definitively one of those two that's going to be second. And
only, you know?
I think 4 gets a bit of a bad rap.
It's actually okay.
Overall,
it's actually
4's
okay.
Actually better than I think
didn't
people.
mind 4,
I think people have disliked 4 more than they should have. 3, I still don't think is awful. It's just not. It's just worse. It's the worst of these, like, you know.
I think it's the most. I think I'm gonna make a statement right here, right now, that I think a lot of people about. Well, I think Carol will be surprised by this one, but I think it's the most consistent franchise.
I'd agree with you. No, I would.
Like I think out of and this is me as the biggest Halloween fan.
Yeah.
I think it's the most consistent franchise where if you said to me, like if all three of you boys said, right, we're gonna rent out a house tomorrow, we're gonna get a VHS for the crack because we're old school here on this one, and we're gonna watch Scream 1 all the way up. Yeah?
Yeah.
I think it would be the most consistent franchise that we could watch, where you know what you're getting, but you still have fun while you're watching it.
I'll give it. Well, maybe with the fun bit, Saw is definitely a better franchise in terms of the eight films that Saw have are all to us near enough the same level.
I think I disagree.
I disagree as well.
Yeah.
I think
once you've seen one of them, you've seen them all, and I know that's hypocritical of me to say, considering we're talking about Halloween, but I think with Saw, it is just pure torture porn. You know what I mean?
Saw isn't as bad as Hostel was.
Hostel's definitely worse.
No, but it's still bad in the sense that, like, I enjoy some Saw movies, but I mean they got really weak and the acting declined.
I don't think they did
exponentially.
I thought they stayed to that level the whole way through the franchise.
I disagree with that.
I would say that franchise in terms of gore stayed at the same level.
Yeah,
I do think the acting probably took a dip.
It went really down.
The stories themselves took a dip. Like when you think of the original Saw, right?
Yeah.
You know, two people locked in a room and there's a dead body in the middle and they're trying to like work their way out. And then eventually it's just like just fucking get anybody. And then when Jigsaw dies and then he's taken over, it does kind of lull there. Now the newest one is actually very good. The last two. Yeah, the last two actually.
No, I'm looking forward to watching that. That's Chris Rock, right? He's kind of
that's actually
making it now. Yeah,
he did a good thing. I don't know if I'd class it as a franchise, and I did say this to you. I do think Fear Street. It's got three films, so technically some people call it a franchise because there's three.
They're fantastic.
Or like an anthology. Yeah.
It's not a franchise because if
well,
you go out and ask,
there's three more of those to come now as well.
Yeah, but if I go out with a Scream mask and show it to somebody who's never seen Scream before, what's that? That's a Scream mask.
Yeah.
Fear Street is a little bit different. It's not a franchise or a global franchise. Us horror folk know it and love it.
Yeah.
But if you're not into horror, you've never heard of Fear Street, but you've definitely heard of Scream.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between a franchise and a series.
Fear Street inspired Scream. The books of Fear Street inspired Scream.
That's true.
They did, yeah.
That is true.
But Scream is the one that's recognizable, and that one's not to an extent.
It's amazing. It's amazing when you look at some of these movies, isn't it? Because like so many of these movies are inspired by things and authors that you never would have realized. For example, Roald Dahl, who is probably one of my favorite authors of all time, known as a children's writer, has written some of the darkest, books out there. And Ted, I know you're a big reader. Like, for example, Magusta Lollipop Man. Anyone that's never read that, please do. We don't usually give book recommendations, but go and check that out. Carl's nodding there, so he knows what we're talking about. Yeah. Like, such a dark book, but only when you read it, like, and kind of read back. So I do kind of see where both of you are coming from there, actually, because I think Fear Street is fantastic as well, Ted. I think that's a good example. I do also think that Saw is good. Don't get me wrong, Greg. I've enjoyed the movies that they are, and I know what you're saying in terms of consistency, in terms of how these people end up in these situations because they've done something, either horrific or whatever, or something. They've just made a mistake in life somehow, and they're ending up in like a fucking neck vice. But I don't think that franchise compares to something like Scream. in the sense that
it's a different kind of movie as well.
Yeah.
It's more gore than it is. Like there's less suspense as Saw went along. Like the first Saw film, I think there's a lot of suspense in that. As it goes along, there's less and less suspense because what you're actually waiting for after seeing the first Saw and the second one is you're like, when's the big gory bit coming? When is it gonna get gory?
Yes.
So your suspense is actually to the gore rather than the story.
Whereas Scream makes you think a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do agree with this, that the boyfriend in this one, it's very obvious it's the boyfriend, right? Very, very obvious.
I think they gave you that one for free, though. I think that's what they did.
Yeah,
exactly.
Greg alluded to that at the start.
It's the second. You know, there's a second killer, and that's where you're like, right, who's the second killer? Like, who could it be? And you know, as Greg said, oh, is it gonna be one of the original?
Did anyone think it may have been the kid was involved somehow? Because obviously that was.
I was kind near reveal time. I was kind of thinking, she's too fucking out there.
Squeaky clean, kind of. You know.
Not even that. But there was the weird relationship she had with the younger sister. That she was obsessed. She was obsessed.
No. I mean the younger sisters. That's what I'm talking about. Did anyone think the younger
that got
sister
stabbed?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, you know, where she was like,
I thought she was gonna be.
I can't find my inhaler, and you're like, oh, hang on.
Yes, you're bringing me to this place now to try and quite clearly fuck me up, like, yeah.
She could have been a third.
That would have been a great twist to it.
Yeah, I was expecting that actually.
I think the problem is that she's
me too.
I think the fact that she's the, you know, as Ian said, she's probably the best actor. Now, I think the boyfriend, Jack Quaid, is like he does
a good job.
Actor.
He's fantastic,
yeah. I think she's the one that the new focus is going to be on. Like, as we said, you know, they brought back some of the legends, like Neve Campbell and the old cast, and like I love that they brought back Skeet Ulrich as well. Even if he was like the Ghostbuster type, you know, he was just popping up in the background. And I love that they kept him as young. Yeah. I love that he was still young because, you know, obviously he's dead, so he hasn't aged. I loved that. I thought that was brilliant.
There's a lot of people saying that, like, I might have been under the impression as well that they used maybe a little too much. No, yeah.
I don't think so. I think he was used just enough.
Yeah, I think so.
Me too.
That could be just me going looking for something.
He's such an integral part, though, of that first movie that, like, you know, if that is a direct, you know, follow on.
Well, it's a follow on. It's a follow on to 4, so it's not a direct follow on. But you understand why they brought him in. Me personally, just looking for something to pick at. I'd say they might have used him just too much.
Do you know what that was? That Greg, I know what that was. You were just like, shit, why can't they be as good looking as this son of a bitch?
But,
it happens to the best of us.
I'm still alive, bro.
What I love is
that the actor is too.
What I love is the story here is that, right, you know, he died when he was, you know, in his teens, right? But as we said, like, he's kind of the good looking jock kind of in the school. And then the story, like, they just refer to the fact that he's going out with Neve Campbell, like Sydney, for the whole first film. And then we get to this one and they're like, well, you know, he wasn't solely with her and he's had a kid.
Anyone else think Sydney looked great, by the way?
Absolutely.
Wheeling that pram.
Yeah.
Oh, she's aged like a fine wine. She has.
Courtney Cox, on the other hand, looks like she's hanging out with Madonna too much.
Jesus, it's bad.
Give you a quick segue. When I used to work in car rental, not too long ago, she actually came up to her desk, and she's married, obviously, to the singer of that Northern Irish band that sing that really horrific song. If I just lay here,
Snow Patrol, isn't it?
Snow Patrol. There you go. That most depressing song ever. But man, like, I wasn't in that day. That apparently she came up to the desk, but I was told that she looked absolutely decrepit as well, and it's only because she's had that much work done. You know what I mean? She looked horrific. Yeah. Whereas Neve Campbell, there's a woman that's just accepted.
I'll tell you what, though, lads, she still can't fucking act.
Who?
Nev?
Yeah. She's not great, lads.
She was never a fantastic actor. Like, she was never.
I am horrified at that statement. That's
she
not acting. This is a documentary.
It's a documentary if you're dependent on her acting skills.
I like that they brought her back, but as you said, they didn't use any of them too much.
Yeah.
and they kind of let them pass the torch to the younger kids.
Yeah.
And
they very evidently do it at the hospital.
Yeah.
And all everything that she's went through as well. Sorry, I wanted to point out flaws in this movie as well as to why, you know, for me it wasn't like the Mae West. Like even like after every fucking movie she's been through, where like you think she's got it down, almost instantly it should be like, this motherfucker's gone for the gun. I'm gonna take her out now. That's it. Still doesn't do it. She waits till the last minute.
Horror rules tell you that you don't do that.
I understand that. And so do pro wrestling rules. Yeah, I get it.
There's only one Sarah Connor. Put it that way.
Yeah.
There's only one Jamie Lee.
I said it to Greg when we were coming out of the cinema that one of the things I loved about this is how they tied everyone back. So obviously you've got the daughter of Skeet Ulrich, but then the film ends, right, and you know certain people have died throughout it, but the twins have survived.
Randy's nephew.
Randy's niece and nephew, right? So who survived the first film? Randy and Sydney, right? Now obviously Sydney's kids are like babies in this, so they're not using that, but they're using the other main character of Skeet Ulrich. His child is the survivor, you know, so they're kind of sticking to the old way where they're like, and the people being attacked are all the people that are descendants of the original, or in some way related to the original cast, like. And I thought that was very good. It's a nice little throwback to the old one without being overly obvious, you know. The people that survived are the people whose ancestors survived. That's interesting.
And then having obviously naming one of the characters in it Wes.
Yeah, that was
nice
cool.
touch. Yeah, it's nice.
I like that. Yeah, I did tear up a little bit at the end. This is for Wes. I was like, shit, man.
I said that to Ted though. I says at the end of this, it's gonna come up. As for Wes or thanks Wes or something like that.
Yeah, it was always going to be said, but
it was. I really enjoyed it though.
Me too.
Yeah,
so did I. To be honest with you, like
and that's the thing. Like, if someone told me they prefer 2 over 5,
you're not gonna argue.
I could understand that as well.
Like, there's 2. You know, like it depends what you were looking for out of the film.
Like I prefer 2 over 5 because I think and literally it could be just this. It could literally boil down to this. It could be just that little bit of acting that I didn't like, but it could also be the fact that it was still done in a time where it brings me a bit of nostalgia. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like this nostalgia could be
that.
You.
Well, this is what me and Ted said coming out. He says, "Is this just because it's now a modern view that we have on the movie that we're rating it higher?" And then it wasn't until I went back and watched it a second time that I confirmed that it's better than 2 for me.
Yeah, but that's fair.
Is it because modernized that we put it that high? Then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go and rewatch it again just to make sure.
Oh, I'll tell you, Greg. It's because it stays true to the original concept.
Yeah.
And like what I mean, and as a franchise, I think I agree with Ian. It's a lot stronger than most.
Yeah.
Because
it's definitely stronger of the big 5.
Well, put it this way: it's all in canon with each other.
Yeah.
Right? That's perfect for me in that sense. It's not like where one of Ghostface is in space, for example. Do you know what I mean?
Not yet.
No, well, we won't say that. But the gas thing about Ghostface is it's just a costume anyone could buy. So an astronaut could buy one and do that.
Well,
that's how
painting it on now.
Yeah, well, you understand what I'm saying. Like the simplicity of that costume is that anyone can wear it.
The genius, Carl, as well. I think behind Wes Craven's initial writing was having that Stab movie as the predominantly big part of the narrative that was being told. That is just genius, and it allows itself to become whatever it wants to be. Like realistically, the same director, different actors could keep this going for another 3 or 4 movies. And I'm not saying that always works, but hypothetically speaking.
Oh yeah. Well, I think they'll bleed it dry if they do now. I think.
Well, look, if there's money to be made, they will. You know that, Greg. But
I think we'll definitely get another one, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe not in the next one, but if they do 3, that the older sister does turn out to be a killer in one of them. I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, because obviously throughout this film, Skeet Ulrich keeps appearing behind her, being
It's
like,
in her
you know,
DNA, yeah.
it's in your DNA, you know, you're
Yeah.
a killer. Like, so in this time, she's the killer because she saves everyone. But like 2 or 3 films on, and you're like, right, we're ready to end the franchise. Like, we're ready to like call it a day. You know, we're happy with where we are. We'll make her the killer, and we'll end here. And as you lad said, they have the Stab films as part of their lore, which is great because the mask in the Stab films is the mask that the killer's wearing. So therefore, well, Stab is a really popular film, the way Scream is in real life.
Yeah.
So the Scream mask is highly available. You go at Halloween now, you'll still be able to buy the Scream mask, you know. So in their world,
you're watching a movie within a movie. That's
but
kinda
in their world, Stab is this big massive franchise.
Their Scream.
Yeah, and it uses the same mask, so obviously that mask is going to be readily available, so everyone's still going to be able to buy it. It's not like, you know, you have to go and get the originals or go hunting for it. It's obviously just easily accessible, as you say, still just as easy to them because they have a massive franchise behind it.
It might be in 2. Oh, no, sorry, it might be in 3 when they just go into one of the shops and there's just loads of the masks everywhere.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And they quite prevalently show it on the camera that they're walking along and there's just loads of them stacked up on the wall. Like,
yeah, and as Ian said in the second one, they go into this now. I don't buy this because if I went to the cinema and everyone was dressed up like that, I'd be like, I think I'll go watch a different film.
I've generally seen
like,
that though. In Bray Cinema, I've seen people going in to watch one of the Harry Potters and they were all dressed up like that.
Yeah,
dressing gowns.
Yeah.
The fact that you went to see Harry Potter, you deserve that. So.
Yeah.
I'm a big Harry Potter fan, so I won't.
I didn't go and see Harry Potter. I seen the first one in the cinema and that was it.
It's enough.
No, I think they did a very good job of, you know, keeping like why the mask is readily available by putting into the second film they'd already established. Oh yeah, they made this into a film, so that like, and then they were able to play it along, and you know, even went with the trope of people being like, yeah, it's kind of gone a bit bad, like because they just keep using the same thing. Like they even played off the fact that people say that about, you know, the big franchises like Nightmare on Elm Street. They play off the fact that people are like, it's gotten a bit shit because, you know, it's just, you know, they just change the character too much and they make them this and they make them that. They use that in this film to highlight the fact that happens. Like,
I think so. Yeah.
I think we've gone as far as we need to go on that.
Yeah.
What would you reckon, lads? How many slabs in me? We'll give it to Tombstone Ted first.
As I said, it's not a 10 out of 10 film. I think 4 is probably fair. As I said, I think the 80% rating that it even gets on Rotten Tomatoes is quite a fair result. It's not infallible, but it is very good.
Yeah. Carl?
Yeah, really, really enjoyed it for what it was. Liked the fact that it didn't stray from the narrative and the lore of the originals. So yeah, but I will give it a 4, and that's a very strong 4, almost bordering on a 4.5. But you know, that's how much I enjoyed it. Like, I'm not saying it was like I was raved about, but I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And you know, that's all I want.
Dynamo? 3 from the Dynamo.
3 from me, yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 4. It was never gonna be perfect, but it's about as close as they could have gotten, really, without Wes Craven behind the camera.
I think it was done correctly, like with an old character from an older time, not like what we said with that shit show that was Texas Chainsaw, you know. So they did it right. I think they did right by the character. You know, the whole law, as I said, the lore of it, you know.
Well, the reason I gave it 3 was purely because that, even though I pointed out like the kind of flaws of it, I was kind of thinking about it as we were talking, and I was like, I can't give it a 4, because, you know, I'd be hypocritical on it, like, and it's only because of some of the acting and some of the little things that I consider the plot holes, only for me on a personal level, but. I mean, the reason it gets a 3, and I mean, it's a strong 3, you know what I mean? It's not a weak 3, like, you know, maybe even 3.5 if you wanted to say the way Carl gave himself.
3 out of 5 is fair.
But
I think because they,
5 from us.
Yeah, because they kind of stuck true to the character, and because it stuck true to kind of what Wes's vision of it was, And because of those Skeet Ulrich appearances in it as well, I'll give it a 3.5 then. There we go. Go on, 3.5.
I think that's a strong 3.5. The way you've explained it, though.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, like, it's not as if you're going. It's 1 and it's because I didn't really like it. You know what I mean?
No.
If there's reasoning behind it, there's no way we can argue with you to say
Exactly.
it should be a 5. It should be a 4. You know what I mean?
Got to give context, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Like, as I said 2 weeks ago, when I gave Chainsaw what I gave the original Chainsaw, I had my reasoning to it.
Exactly.
I mean,
absolutely, it's an opinionated game. This, and with every game,
even if the opinion is wrong.
Exactly, and like with every game must come to an end. And unfortunately, today our game has come to an end as well.
But at least we're happier this time around.
We are definitely happier. But I think it's time that everyone, before we do leave, it is time that we give our recommendations. So, has anybody got? Well, I know Ted, you have a recommendation today because you said pre-show that you had something.
Well, just because we're doing Scream, if anybody hasn't watched it, the Scream series that I think it's on Netflix.
Still on Netflix, yeah.
It's actually quite good. The first series is very good. Second series is quite good, and then it doesn't actually get renewed for a third. There is a third series, but it's as if they couldn't get the original cast back, so they were just like, let's just start again. So just forget about the third series and just watch the first 2, and it actually is quite good. It doesn't have the Scream mask because they couldn't get the rights to use the mask, so it's a different type of mask, but it's the same pretext to the film.
Greg, if you want.
Goat level movie.
Oh, very good.
Goat level movie.
Yeah, top level.
Very
top level.
good.
Okay, now we're talking.
That was my watching. It's just sheer phenomenal.
It's funny you should say that film because I watched Dr. Sleep.
I still haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, it's good. I enjoyed it. It's a bit long now. Well, I suppose I watched the director's version.
It's not really long. It's a good movie.
Yeah, it's good. You don't notice time flying. Put it that way.
I'm gonna give it a watch now. Obviously, I haven't just rewatched that one, so
I would recommend it.
Yeah. I don't know. What have you got?
Yeah, for me, I've actually. You know what? Speaking of, it's funny enough. We mentioned at the start of the show there that I was. We were talking about Skeet Ulrich a lot, on today's show, and obviously him being. A lot of people don't know some of the stuff he's done, but he was in a show that was on like Netflix when Netflix really first started coming to Ireland, that I watched with my brother, and really good show, a damn good show, some people would say, and it was called Jericho. And,
I heard of it,
it's about a small little town in kind of Midlands America, and there's kind of like a little bit of a Holocaust, there's a little bit of a blackout and stuff like that, and he's kind of the main character in it, and it's about 4 seasons long, maybe 3-4 seasons long, but really good show. I highly recommend it. Actually, it's really good show.
Add that to the list. So
it's one of those lads. If I because I don't have the patience for too much nonsense, if I'm recommending you a show that's 3 to 4 seasons long, y'all better trust me that it's good, because it is good. Trust me, it's very, very good. So much so that I've started watching it again, and it's a very, very good show. So I like that we had some show recommendations on this week's episode, just to change it up a little bit. It's not necessarily, Jericho's not necessarily a out and out horror show, and Chris Jericho doesn't appear on it, so don't get too excited, anybody.
Damn.
But trust me, it's a very, very good show. So I guess that's it, guys and gals. Until next week, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and make sure you follow us on Facebook for the latest updates as well. You'll know when shows drop. If you don't know by now and you're only stumbling across this show today because you're a Scream fan, well, you know where to find us. Find us on the Slab Horror on Facebook and otshorror@gmail.com if you want to give us an email and either give us abuse or give us praise. It doesn't really bother us none. We are
abuse,
here.
You'll get a lot of it back.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, you can follow us on those two mediums at the moment, and of course we are available on all podcast platforms at the moment. I believe, Carl, isn't that right? We're on the way. We're definitely on Spotify.
Yep, definitely.
So when our shows are available on video, they're also available on audio. So I think until next week, guys, anybody got any recommendations on what we should give the fans next week?
Well, I think we should keep it a secret. That's what I'm going to say, just because we've given the last two away. But what I do want to say before we go is, if you like movies in general, always check out Retrotainment and Retrotainment Recast. Retrotainment Recast, and I'm not just saying it, is one of my favorite podcasts out there. I love it. I absolutely love the dynamic between the lads and the whole concept behind it. So On the Slab recommends Retrotainment and Retrotainment Recast.
We also have a previous episode where yourself and the Dynamo went head to head.
And what did they recast?
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street, one of Greg's big boys.
And
The
who
big
won?
one. It was a draw.
Well,
No.
why the hell would you tell people what the fucking result was, you idiot?
You don't need to watch it now, but do watch it anyway.
You need to watch it because you need to see the pics.
Yeah, watch it anyway. Don't worry
No,
about
I was
Greg.
hoping someone would say like that. One of us won, so that then they'd be like, I don't believe that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the draw could be a lie.
It
Well,
could
now
be
they
funny.
know because I'm at the giving you.
No,
You're an
you
idiot,
need to go.
Greg.
You need to go and see the pics.
Yeah, look at who
there
they
was
picked
some
and how it
absolute
worked out.
bangers in there.
Yeah,
Lots
there's
of bangers in
certain
there. Yeah.
there's certain ones that maybe you'll agree with the way some people went and disagree with the way the judges did it, but that's part of the beauty of Retrotainment Recast, especially. It's you're playing to judge as well as you're playing to who you actually think is going to be a good one. So thank you very much for that shout out, Carl King Woe, and thank you to all three of you for having me on.
And of course, what we will put obviously a link to the channel in the bio on this episode as well. So be sure 100%, and of course you can follow Retrotainment on Twitter as well, at Retrotainment on Twitter. You're on Facebook as well. I don't know whether are you an Instagram guy? I don't believe you're an Instagram.
We have
Greg does my Instagram, so it's at Retrotainment1 on all three of them, Instagram,
Sure.
Twitter, and Facebook.
Yeah, and you'll see me, of course, if you follow me at Dynamo's Dozen, at Ian Kelly 800. Actually, sorry, is the actual dread. You'll find me retweeting a lot of
everywhere.
Retrotainment. You'll find me retweeting it as well, and that is the show, of course, that I'm retweeting. So yeah, 100% support the boys always and forever. We do this free for you so that you don't have to, and that we literally, you know what? I don't know whether you guys are the same as me, but I'd like to kind of have my daily commute filled with, horror, retrotainment, whatever it may be. I like to have my day filled with that, and trust me, if you like this show, you're gonna like the back catalogue. So go and check us all out, and until next week, stay scared, stay safe, but most importantly, stay scared.